Hey everybody, Bryan again, and this is episode number 5 of Tribute to Grandpa this year. I'm really excited about it. So one of the things I wanted to point out today that I thought was really funny was when we went to our grandma and grandpa's house in West Mesa, Arizona, there were things that they're just consistent. You were always seeing them, they were always there. And one of them happens to be a poem that you'll hear from my grandpa in just a minute that he didn't write, but he did recite, and it was a poem that was hanging in a little half bathroom upstairs. My grandparents did have a basement, really cool. Not a lot of people in Arizona have basements. I think that was, at least I growing up, I never felt like a lot of people had basements. So we went there and they had this poem in the bathroom, and every one of my family and cousins and everybody knows already what poem we're going to be talking about here today. But until recently, a couple years back, I didn't realize there was another verse to it, because my grandma, I believe, please someone tell me if I'm wrong, she crocheted it or stitched it on a cloth and put this together so that you could read it in the bathroom. And it was a lovely poem called "The Outhouse." And so you get to hear that in just a second. But it's things like that that actually remind me a lot of my grandparents. And so, friends and family, when you went over to see Grandpa and Grandma Brooksby, or if you called them, Carl Brooksby and VerDon Brooksby, whatever you called them when you went to their house, what were some things you remembered? For me, obviously I remember the pool because we swam a lot. Like we went over there all the time as kids in the summertime to just get in the pool, because that was our only access to a pool that was family related anyways. It was just real quick. So we got in the pool a lot. That was great. But I always remember, like, my grandma and grandpa, they went out of the way to do things that you loved. Like, maybe my other cousins would be able to attest to this, but my grandma and grandpa one time bought like these frozen hamburgers. And looking back, they probably weren't great. They probably weren't great hamburgers that you could microwave and eat. Frozen, right? But for whatever reason, they bought them. I loved them, and so my grandma and grandpa, probably my grandma more than anything, made sure they were there every summer from that point forward. Like, they were always there, at least for the next few years, which I thought was pretty cool. So this poem that you're going to hear my grandpa recite was one of the things that, like, when I hear it, it just reminds me of being there. The smells, their kitchen. I remember being downstairs. They had this little, underneath the staircase, they had this little closet that they had a lot of toys in, a lot of kids played with. But all the cousins, everybody that ever went over there, we always wrote our name in pen, underneath the staircase. And that just became like the mural. Like, to this day, there's still like hundreds of names of people in there. Like, I was here this year, and that kind of fun stuff. Even friends of mine, like, their names are there, which I thought are really, really funny. So what are some things that remind you of my grandma and grandpa? I'd love to hear back from you guys on this one. But this is one of my favorite poems. It's silly, it's goofy. It's called "The Outhouse," and you get to hear the whole thing. It was actually created by my grandmother's dad, from what I understand, Foot Hamlin. So my grandpa didn't create this poem, but he has a fun time reading it. So enjoy the poem, and I'll see you in the next episode.
This is a poem that VerDon's dad, Foot Hamlin, had written on the wall in his outhouse. If you want to move with ease, place your elbows on your knees. Rest your chin upon your thumbs, give a grunt, and out it comes. Step gently as you enter, and softly close the door, for many a hard-earned dinner lies buried beneath this floor.